Good evening. I'm Terry Greiss. Welcome to Protect, Serve, and Understand, a program that brings police officers and civilians together through the practice of theatrical improvisation. We want to acknowledge tonight that we're streaming from Brooklyn, New York, the ancestral land and territory of the Lenape Nation. As we come together tonight, please take a moment to consider the many legacies of violence, displacement, migration, and settlement that have brought us here. The world looks completely different tonight than it did 6 years ago when we first piloted this project, as our active response to the increasing level of tension and distrust between police officers and civilians. It looks different than it did in our last Zoomcast in December. Today, instead of spending 10 weeks in the same room together, breaking bread, telling each other's stories, arguing about law enforcement, racism, injustice, and privilege, improvising, and most of all, really trying to hear each other, the way we're coming to you now, is often the only way we can be together. And so we're trying to continue this work to adapt as best we can to the way our world is today. Today, we're all carrying the weight not only of the pandemic, but so many cases of police-related violence. And let me be clear, TPSU is not presented as the antidote to systemic racism, the culture of violence, or the societal ills that create the tragedies we've seen and those we fear are sure to come. This is a program that brings people together to practice the art of listening to each other. We have to listen in order to understand. We cannot fix what we do not understand. And that is the goal TPSU strives for, 14 people at a time, 1 foot in front of the other. The work has been guided by myself and 2 members of the Irondale Ensemble, and I'd like you to meet them now. Rivka?
Hi, good evening. Thank you, Terry. Good evening, everyone. I'm Rivka Rivera, an Irondale Ensemble member and a facilitator of Protect, Serve, and Understand. And over the past year, we have paused the workshops and performances of TPSU, not only because of COVID, but also in order to reflect deeply on what it means to be doing this work on such a project in this particularly difficult and painful time. The work of TPSU is collaboratively created by the
There you go.
participants. Thank you. See, they got my back. By the participants, civilians, police officers, and TPSU facilitators. NYPD supports officer participation in this program, but the content you're about to hear is guided and directed entirely by Irondale facilitators. And as facilitators, we come to this work with a range of experiences and political points of view. We offer no agenda other than a belief in the tools and power of theater to help us to listen, to understand, and to sit in complexity. This will be part of the workshop, will be part performance. A police officer will play a civilian, and a civilian will play an officer using only the other's words. You'll watch as other officers and civilians interrupt the monologues, argue with them, question them, and use them as a part of a larger discussion about policing in America today. And I'll introduce you to Michael David.
Hey, folks. I'm Michael David, and I'm the musical director of the program. Tonight, we're going to try to give you some highlights of the workshop program. We're focusing on 3 exercises in particular. The interviews, which are going to be interrupted by conversations or sometimes original verses that have been written by the cast. Those verses are to the song The Wait by the band from the 60s. And you'll be seeing those interjected from time to time as a way to actually have a conversation with the monologues as well as the people that are interrupting the monologues. Now, I know this all sounds a little confusing, but hang with us, you'll be all right. All right, I'm gonna throw it back to you, Rivka.
So police officer Diana Torres will play Dustin Rodriguez, who is a civilian, and Latoya Wyche will play police officer Mardoshi St. Fard. Diana and Latoya are both alumni of this program, but they never met the person that they interviewed before a week ago or so, and they never met each other before a week ago or so. And they interviewed their subject over Zoom. Those interviews will serve as the scripts for their monologues this evening.
During the monologues, you'll get to witness in real time what both civilians and officers feel about what's being said, and they will check each other for understanding. Listen to how the phrase, "what I hear you saying is," becomes a way to know if what we think we're saying is what's really being heard. The monologue will be punctuated, interrupted by other participants in this dynamic conversation, and perhaps original song lyrics and other interruptions provoked by us until they're completed.
So let's begin by meeting our players. Tonight's TPSU alumni cast. Deanna, would you come on and introduce yourself, please?
Hi, I'm Officer Diana Torres. I work with the 84th Precinct at Metro Tech. This is my 20th year on the job.
Well, hello there. My name is Stephen Barnes. Most people call me Steph. I've been a police officer for about almost 9 years now. I used to work in the 84th Precinct until certain circumstances happened. So now I'm working in the 7th Precinct. Enjoy the show, guys.
Tracy.
I am Tracey Pinkard. I am an advocate of Gowanus Houses, and I am the co-founder of Gowanus Houses Art Collective. I'm an alumni of TPSU, and I'm looking forward to continuing this discussion. Have a good evening, everyone.
Brian.
I'm Brian Mochrie. I'm a police officer in the 79th Precinct. I've been here for 13 years. This is my second time venturing out into Irondale. Here at the precinct, I work midnights. I'm a PBA union representative.
Latoya.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Latoya Wyche. I'm an alumni of TPSU, and I'm excited to be here. I'm a New York City Department of Education teacher. I have been in education for 19 years, and I'm excited about the journey that will continue. Enjoy the show, everyone.
And Danneile.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Danneile Davis, and I think of myself as an advocate for truth, empathy, understanding, accountability, and justice. And some of the work that I do right now professionally is based at John Jay College of Criminal Justice at a research center called the National Network for Safe Communities. I do violence prevention work and police community reconciliation. Looking forward to the program tonight.
So we use music a lot in this project. And, people sometimes ask, well, why do you put music into the project? And it's because it's one of the ways that we get to express ourselves as human beings. Also, music tends to bring us together, even though we have issues with each other, even though we have disagreements. Music, very often, we have found in the project, will bring people who are disagreeing vehemently, will bring them together to be able to listen to each other and to continue on. So, yeah. So let's see. Hey, Tracy. Tracy, come on camera for a second.
I'm here.
Do me a favor. Can you sing just the chorus of The Weight for us, please?
Sure
Take
can.
the load off, Fanny. So this is the song that we have sort of been using as an underlying gestalt in this project for this one. Take it.
Take a load off, Fanny. Take a load for free. Take a load off, Fanny. And you put the load right on me.
Thank you so much. Put the load right on me, indeed. And hopefully we're going to be sharing the load here a little bit tonight. So I'm going to throw it back to you, Rivka. Take it.
Wonderful. Can I have all participants keep their cameras off except for Deanna? Deanna, will you bring your camera on? Awesome, Deanna. So we're going to go into this monologue work. You interviewed Justin. Can you describe to us a bit about his physicality, his build? What does he look like?
Yes. Dustin Rodriguez is a teaching artist. He works for after-school programs. He's also works for a maintenance of a building. He's very uppity. He's 28 years old. He's like tan caramel. He got ponytail. He picks up with curly hair. I assume it's in a ponytail. He's a great person.
Where did you meet him for your interview?
I met Justin here at Irondale, and I met him through Michael David, and we did an interview during Zoomcast, and that's the first time that I actually seen and met him.
Great. Can you just ground yourself in your seat right now? Take a few breaths. I want you to visualize Justin right in front of you. See him, breathe him in, into your feet, into your hands. Can you think of a phrase that he would say, a word or a phrase? Breathe that into your heart. And when you're ready, bring us Justin.
So I got a question. Am I talking to Diana, who happens to be a police officer? Or am I talking to Officer Diana? All right. I'm Dustin Rodriguez. I'm an actor. I also am a teaching artist. I also work as a maintenance person at a theater and at the daycare center. I was born and raised in the Lower East Side, raised by my grandmother. I cherish my grandmother. She's my rock. She's my everything. She took me in when my mother wasn't able to raise me. She took care of not only me, but I also have 2 brothers and 1 sister. And she took care of them as well. She's just been doing it. She's been on it. I got a son. He's 9 years old. He lives in Pennsylvania with his mother. I see him in visitation, right? Visitations. I'm still keeping contact with my father and my mother. They're not together. They're separated. So when I was...
I actually got a call earlier today and I wasn't feeling really well, so it helped. It was from my mom, and she's going to be coming up to New York. She will be fully vaccinated at the time. I will be too, and I'll see her for the first time in a year and a half. And I don't know about you all, what you've been dealing with in 2020 or 2021, but it literally means the world to be able to have that time with my mother.
Hold. So Danneile, so what you're saying is that because of the pandemic and everything that's happened, and since it's going to be the first time you got to see your mother in a very long time, because you both will be vaccinated. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying.
I couldn't agree with you more, because I remember from the start of the pandemic, I didn't see my mother until damn near my birthday, and it was hard, between working every day and then not being able to see her because everything that was going on and she's at risk. It was really hard not seeing her and my family. It sucked. Last year definitely sucked for everyone.
So what I'm hearing, Danneile and Stefan, what I'm hearing you say is that you guys have not seen your parents for like a year and a half or for a very long time since the pandemic.
Right.
Yeah.
I got to see my mother, but it was just, I didn't see her for a very long time until, everything the restrictions and everything lifted.
I haven't seen my mom since 2019.
Oh my God.
That's tough. Well, I hope eventually you guys will get a chance to see them at some point, because it's a long time and we want to be able to be connected with our families. I have the first shot, so I can imagine how that feels when you're not able to see your family. So, good job.
No, it's funny because when I got to see my mother.
So when I was first introduced to the theater, there was this person, their name Preemie, and he gave me a tour, and there was like a spotlight on stage. So when I went in, I just started doing Michael Jackson. I just started bugging out. And he was like, "You see that? See, you meant to be an actor." And then
There he
Yeah,
is.
Diana.
It's crazy, crazy Steph. There he is dancing on the counter again.
That's why he's in the 7th.
And then Preemie, God bless his soul, he passed away. And I feel I gotta take that torch he handed down. Like the story with my mother. It's like a little salty, but we still have a relationship. My mother's house got raided. She was with somebody that happened to be doing his thing. You know what I mean? She's not with him no more. She don't fuck with him. She's just because of that situation. I was 13, 14 years old. Smoking, hanging out with my friends. I was wilding. I was young. So I'm about to flip this bud, and it was like half an ounce. And I'm thinking, I'm about to be a man. But then my mother's house got raided. And me having weed on me, my mother didn't know at the time that I was smoking. Because I would stay over there on the weekends, and my grandmother would be like upset sometimes. She didn't want me over there because of all what's going on. You know how it is. It's like that Spanish thing. They go back and forth. There's always one person in the family that messes up, and that happened to be my mother.
Hold. Steph. Tracy.
Yes.
7 ways to fight with your family. Go.
Yelling, screaming, walking out, closing the door,
Closing the door.
not answering their call,
Yelling at them.
running away.
Stealing their money.
Oh. Walking away.
They added exercise.
Diana.
So I'm at the crib. It's 5:30 in the morning. The turtles start rolling in. The gun pointed at me, and all you hearing is "Get the fuck on the ground! Get the fuck on the ground!" And I see this flashlight. If I made any false move, that would have been it. The gun was clear, and the light was blocking everything else out. All I hear is boom, it's a break-in. And I'm like, oh shit. I didn't even know it was police officers. Now I know they gotta do what they gotta do. But I'm young, and I never had a gun pointed at me. I never been in a situation where I felt like I was going to lose my life. I'm on the floor, and they handcuffed me. And my mother was butt-ass naked. And I'm thinking, all right, if homeboy's here, then I know it's a wrap. It's done. It's over for all of us. I'm not even thinking about my shit. Like, I'm thinking about my mom. If I'm like, all right, I'm gonna be good, but my mother's gonna go down, and the cops is talking to me like I understand everything. And I said, yo, man, I'm 13, 14, and you're pointing a gun at me? And you're telling me everything's gonna be all right? I'm like, brother, no. The cops are being assholes. They're not finding anything. So we're in a paddy wagon, and now I'm
Take a load off Fanny. Take a load for free. Take a load off Fanny. And
so we're in the paddy wagon, and now I'm there with my mother. And I gotta tell my mother that I got this half thing of weed in there. And she was like, you have what?
Hold. It's
You're on,
nobody's
Diana.
fault but mine.
And she says, don't worry, Justin. I'm gonna say it's mine. And I'm like, nah, don't worry. That's me saying, girl, you got bigger fish to fry. Like, you're gonna go down if there's anything in this crib with this man. So I'm gonna do whatever I need to do with this weed or whatever. And see, this is where the violation came. I mean, the
Hold.
house.
See, that's the key word right there, violation, right? Because that's usually the thing that happens to us that makes us want to reach out for help, whether it's to law enforcement or friends or so on. And, you know, for what it's worth, any of the times that I've made a 911 call, fortunately few, I actually did get good help. I have to give those cops their props. I appreciate them taking on that oath to protect and serve. And fortunately, I did feel protected and served in those moments. It was when I did not ask for their help that the violations came when they pulled over my dad for nothing but driving while being a Black man. It came when they pulled over a car just because there were some young people in a rich neighborhood. And even though I was the one kid not smoking anything in the car, I was the one Black kid and the first one they had to pull out because they assumed I was. Yeah, that's when the violation comes. It's when you don't ask and they're still there and they're causing pain and hurt. And unfortunately, those are often the memories that stay with us.
I mean, the house. They tore everything up. They tore everything out of the closet. At this point, it just looked like they were tight. They violated. They just threw everything on the ground. And you know how Puerto Ricans got the closet with all the old shit in it. All that stuff is on the ground. All the jackets were on the ground, the food out of the fridge. You had slept over everything. It was like that.
Old. Brian. Brian, 7 ways to reform policing.
Strong leadership.
1.
Informed public.
2.
Enhanced training.
3.
3.
A working justice system at the court level.
4.
Jumping out of airplanes with big parachutes.
5.
Backflips out of moving ambulances.
6.
A better understanding.
7 things.
Then, when they brought me in, they didn't even know how to deal with a 13-year-old. I mean, the dude was actually looking in the book because he didn't know how to deal with a kid. I thought it was over for me. He offered me candy or a soda, and I'm like, at this point, homeboy, I don't want nothing from you. Do whatever you're gonna do with me.
See, that's the thing about a lot of police officers. It really bothers me that they're just so out of tune and out of touch with the community and young people. Like, we're not robots. Like, you know, you can be yourself and still be a police officer. It's not that hard.
Deanna.
They gave me 2-month probation. I had a probation officer named Mrs. Smalls. I ended up writing an essay for her, doing community service way uptown. But this dude that I had to do community service with, he was cool. So like getting past it and getting me over it, it opened up my eyes. Like even now, I don't like being locked up. I don't like handcuffs. Anything dealing with cops, I'm nervous. I'm scared. Even if I'm not doing anything wrong, I'm still scared. Because you know, I see cops and it brings me right back to that moment.
Hold. That's the thing about trauma. It can happen to you 5 minutes ago, 5 years, 5 decades ago, but something triggers you and you're right back in that moment. And civilians experience trauma and police officers experience it too. And I think all together, we need to do a better job of talking about it, of talking about the impact that it has on us and what it causes us to do to ourselves and to other people.
But I'm not with all that hate against the cops. I know that's not all of you. And I know that you're not someone in Ferguson. I know that you're from New York. But there's some cops that ain't from here. And they be getting called out by people here. And I don't know who's from where. I don't know that if you're from around here, then you're from around here and you're probably all right.
Hold. UNITY. UNITY stands for unity. UNITY.
So Latoya, what you saying is UNITY, UNITY. Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying. We need to
I
unite.
agree.
We need to work
Absolutely.
together. It's really important that we make connections. Talk about reform. We need to basically focus on that, focus on it closely. And I'm going to make that start in the classroom with my kids, talking to them, showing them what reform is all about, how to be able to reform their minds so that way we can stop some of this stuff that's happening. It's really important that we talk to our children at home, our children in school, and sometimes you might even need to give a word on the street. UNITY.
I agree completely.
But some of y'all, you know, they be cops and they be savages and shit. They be wilding. We had bag detectives. It was always the detectives. You know what I'm saying? It was narcotic detectives. Those were the ones in my neighborhood. They even stopped me one time thinking that I'm selling drugs. I mean, I had my shit tied and my bag tied around, and I ain't had no belt. And they said, oh man, he made a drop off. You got a bag? You got expensive sneakers, but you can't buy a belt? But you buy drugs, right? And I said, nah, man, ain't nothing like that. So I'm a kid who goes to therapy and everything, and my chest is pumping right now. But the cop said, there's something wrong here. You're not telling me the truth. Now, if you're a cop in a situation, what they gotta be like? Because it looked like they're just talking down to everybody and not even trying to hear nobody. You're not even trying to let us talk or anything. And then you get upset, and I'm getting upset, and I'm trying to tell you something, but you're not trying to listen to me. And you get more upset because I'm coming with more shit at you because now you as a cop got more upset, and now you want to be more of a dickhead.
What is it about? Is it about the pistol or the power? Or is it about both? Please tell me.
Hold. I picked up my bag. I went looking for a place to hide. When I saw Carmen and the devil walking side by side.
Now you want to be more of a dickhead towards me because you came at me to begin with. So I've learned as I get older, there's no point in flipping. There's no point in bugging. I mean, I go to therapy, right? I'm bipolar. And I feel like everybody got a little bipolar in them. Everybody got days when they're not quite on. So talking to a therapist, especially cops, what they go through and stuff, y'all go through robberies, y'all go through crime scenes and all that stuff.
There's a lot of talk about trauma and what people are going through. Everyone has a little bit of bipolar in them. There's a fundamental problem. And it's not a systemic problem that I think everyone thinks of. There's a fundamental problem where police officers are ordered to go out in the street and fight crime. They give the officers the tools they need to fight the crime. And then there is no accountability when something goes sideways. When the cops are out there doing the job that they were told to do, something goes sideways. The administration and the city turns around, and then no accountability on them, even though they gave us the marching orders. Then they turn around and try to demonize us. And all that does is drive the citizen and the cop further apart.
All that stuff, and it stays in the mind. And if you feel for a person, you're not supposed to get attached to anything. That's the crazy part, right? But it's hard to do that because, you know, you feel stuff and you're emotional. So it's just best to let it out.
Hold.
And to speak to somebody.
Tracy. 7 ways to reform policing.
Dismantle the system.
1.
Look at the history.
2.
Understand that you're working on stolen land.
3.
My grandfather was stopped by the police.
4.
There is no reform in police.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
I don't hate the individual. I hate the
6.
system.
6.
Reform can only happen when we look at the history and we remove the hatred from our hearts.
7.
7.
7.
7 things.
You're
Unmute,
muted,
Dan.
Diana. You're muted.
Go down, Moses. There's nothing you can say.
Muted.
So it's best just to let it out and to speak to somebody instead of holding in the shit and not talking about it. When you go through, you got to be able to say, yo, man, this got me depressed. And yo, I can't get this off my mind. Now, should it be mandatory? I mean, some people are smooth and they don't deal with anything. But as far as the job, mandatory, I ain't good for mandatory nothing.
Hold. You see this award that I got? This award always reminds me every time I get down. I just think, I got this while I was in college. I got this for theater. You know, I minored in theater and I just absolutely crushed it. My GPA in theater was probably like 3.8, 3.9. But it just always reminds me that no matter what you do, there's always going to be someone hating on you in life. So do what makes you happy. You know, try not to let things get you down too much and try to always think of the happy things.
But I see how y'all all wake up every day. I'm sorry. I believe that they should be definitely getting therapy. Because I can't say that I experienced anything as a cop, but I see how y'all wake up every day. And I see that it ain't no regular 9 to 5. Y'all dealing with people that are ignorant.
Doing the work I do in violence prevention, I cannot imagine what it's like to have to see this every day as an officer. I've been in the room collecting data with officers who, you know, we always think of as tough, as larger than life, and forgetting that there are people wearing these uniforms and these badges, one of whom had to walk out of the room because the slide that was up there of a gruesome homicide was committed by the guy who took her sister to prom. Right? These are real people, and no civilian should ever be expected to carry the trauma. And if we're going to create a system that puts other human beings out there to experience these kinds of things for themselves and layering onto any other forms of trauma that they have, then we need to create a much better system to make sure that they're taking care of themselves so that that doesn't end up having ramifications for the communities we serve or they're supposed to serve.
With the weight that they hold and everything they do, y'all dealing with people that are ignorant, y'all dealing with people that got a mouth all the time, and all those negative people. The ones that can get out of the box of hatred because of the shit that they go through. But they be in the wrong themselves, and they be tripping, the nitty gritty and shit. To reimagine cops, well, I can't be corny. I can't be like corny and stuff. You know, like hood cops. You need at least a few people that are from the neighborhood so that you can know that the place or be with somebody who knows that place. You need, if you're gonna be doing an event in the hood, y'all know. But now it feels like cops don't want to do anything because they feel like the neighborhood is against them. But they gotta be more down to earth. Like you, Diana. Like, see, you're a mother. So, like, you're down, you know. You're a grandma, you're cool, you're old school, la policía. So, you got that. It's a quality that some people need and don't have. And you can teach them. You can't teach them. You either have it or you don't. And kids, they can tell if you're in it just for the job. A kid can tell that automatically. Automatically. What would I change? Get rid of the bad apples, the racism, the excessive force, the judging me because I'm dressed a certain way. Get to know the neighborhood. get to know the people, know the pulse of the community, know where people get their coffee in the morning. Say hello, is everything okay? Have them greet us so that we know that we're not in trouble. A simple hi goes a long way. It's better to know us as a hi basis as opposed to, yeah, I know about you, I know what you do.
Hold, Latoya. 7 ways to heal.
Sing a song.
1,
Take a shower.
2,
Go to sleep.
3,
Three,
Call a friend.
4,
Write a poem.
four,
5,
five,
Eat a good meal.
6,
Or just scream out loud. Hallelujah.
7,
7
Seven.
7 things.
I will have people from the neighborhood who are willing to communicate with the cops, have a program where you can communicate with cops from their own neighborhood. Maybe doing a show with officers so that you can tell each other stories, so that you can see how I live, what my life is like, and we can see what the officers' lives are like.
hold.
When you get into the mindset, then we can get somewhere.
Oh,
I hear telling stories. Some of our stories are very sacred and they shouldn't have to be shared with people who are not open and willing to listen, right? We go through this process of just kind of purging to people who wouldn't care. So I'm not so sure about holding space with people who are not ready to hear me or to learn about me, let alone people who don't even care about me.
and put the load right on me. Thank you, Deanna. Thank you, folks. That was great. That was wonderful. Thanks, Deanna. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Okay, Deanna, take your camera out. Thank you. And Latoya, can we have you on, please?
Hello. How
Hello.
are you, Michael David?
I'm fine. How are you, girl?
I'm doing wonderful.
You have that lovely sort of like, caramel camera thing happening there.
Goes with the complexion.
Movie star thing. There you go.
Ellen and
Uh,
Margaret.
There you go. Can you tell us about the officer that you interviewed, please? Describe him to us.
So the officer, his name is Mardochi Saint-Fard. He is an African-American male with a Haitian descent. He is bald head. He's 30 years old. He has a mustache. He has slanted eyes, kind of protruding eyes. He had a strong voice, but yet friendly. I had a pleasure of just talking with him and hearing about what he had to say.
Great. Now, I'd like you to just close your eyes. Okay, and relax your shoulders. And take a couple of really nice breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. And in through your nose and out through your mouth. Now, I would just like you to send Officer Mardochi, send him down to your feet. Send that name right down into your feet. Great. And now send his name up to your legs. Send his name there. Send his voice. Send what he looks like. Now send him to your hips. And now send him to your torso. Yeah, that's right. Work him in there. There we go. Send him into your shoulders. Breathe him into your neck. And breathe him into your head and your ears and the top of your head and the mask of your face. See his face and put his face on yours. And put that voice of his in your mouth. And when you're ready, Let's hear from Officer Mardoci.
It's Mardoci. You can call me Doshi. It's a nickname I had since I was a kid. I'm Haitian. I got in July 2nd of 2018. Yeah, July 2nd of this year will make 3 years for me. So I'm still pretty new. It's been good. There are good days and bad days. It's like being caught in a crossfire, and you're never right on either side. When you talk to the civilians who don't understand the police side, it's like, oh, you're just like that because you're a cop. And you forgot you're a Black man first, but they don't care about that because you're Black. And you talk to the cops who, they think, oh, well, police don't bother you unless you're committing a crime, which isn't true. I've been accosted by police and I wasn't doing anything. That's why I have never had the idea of being a cop. So I'm looking for other things to do.
This is America. Don't catch you slipping now. Don't catch you slipping now.
I did other jobs and a friend was going to take the exam to be a cop. So I said, you know what? I'll go with you. I got in and he didn't, and he failed the psych review. And I used to be on social media, wasting my time arguing with people who were only plural police. So I understand why these people are frustrated and where their frustration comes from. Because I used to be, how could you do this to another human being? And I really thought the police were inherently racist. And for the most part, police history has been inherently racist. But I think over the years.
So Tracy, I was listening to what you were saying a while back, and let me know if I have this right. What I think I heard you saying was that we have to understand the history of policing and the history of racism in this country if we ever hope to be able to do anything to move forward. Is that what you were saying?
That is correct. I think we move forward and we don't realize what's behind it. So you're correct.
So I would agree so much with that. I think, and it's not just speaking as a nerdy old history major too, right? It's when we talk about reconciliation, if there's any hope for that, there has to be truth and there has to be accountability. And we can't have any accountability if people aren't telling the truth about what has happened and what is happening.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Catch a cannonball, now to take me down the line. My bag is sinking low, and I do believe it's time.
Police have gone out of their way to show transparency and to show that there is a method to the madness. And there is a reason for some of the things that they do. I used to be one of those people. And when I became a cop, I said to myself, I'll be a different cop. I'll be the cop who show people, oh, not all cops are the same. And every time I've gotten that adds up to the good day that we talk about. A bad day for me.
I feel the same way as Officer Dolce. I don't consider myself a bad cop, a bad apple. I consider myself a very great cop. I'm only out here to help. I don't like to be looked at as a murderer. I don't like to look out as a rapist. I don't like to be looked at anything other than an officer who's trying to do her job the right way, which is helping people, helping kids, helping moms, helping grandmothers. When I go out in the street and I look at someone's grandmother, I see my grandmother, and I'll do whatever I can to help that grandmother because I want my grandmother to be taken care of. I want my mom to be taken care of. I want my child to be taken care of. So I treat everyone like they were my family. So I don't like anyone coming to me and telling me, oh, you're a murderer. You're going to kill us. You're just trying to lock us up. You're listening to them. You're listening to them. Who is them? Who is them? Because I'm me. At the end of the day, I'm Officer Diana Torres, but I am still Diana. With this uniform, without this uniform, I'm Diana Torres. And I picked this job because I love helping people. And I'm tired, I tell you, of people telling me and hearing the fact that you're a murderer, you're a bad guy, oh, you're gonna kill my son one day, or your cop, your boss is gonna rape my daughter or your daughter, blah, 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 blah. You're a traitor, Officer Torres, you're a traitor, you're a traitor, you're a traitor. Guess what? I'm not. I'm here to help you.
Hold up, Diana, don't come back. So what I heard you say is that you just want everyone to pretty much view you as a good police officer because you've been working in the A4 for about 20 years now. And, you know, they want you to see you as Diana, not Officer Torres. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I'm Diana Torres. When you see my name, Torres, I have a first name. And I'm not just a cop. I'm not a cop who killed anyone in the past. I haven't killed a person today. Okay, I haven't killed a person in the last 20 years. I have not taken out this gun and pointed it at anyone. I have done nothing illegal. I've done nothing but to do right by this job, to do right by the community, to do right by the people. That's who I am. I'm Officer Diana Torres that does her job the best way that she can to help someone.
No, I agree. I completely agree with Steve. Me, I'm Officer Stephen Barnes, aka someone, whoever the hell gave up that nickname, Big Steph. But all I'm here to do is make everyone smile and make everyone laugh. That's, even if I'm arresting you, I'm probably gonna crack a joke or two, because you know I'm a happy person. I'm gonna try to make the process as smooth as possible, as painless as possible. But you know, a lot of people, a lot of civilians, I feel like they don't see that. They'll, you know, just because of the history of some of the dumbasses before us, they've kind of like implemented that in the community and everything. So people, they won't, if they don't know us, they'll never see us in that light, which is unfortunate. But hopefully this program could definitely shed some light into that.
Oh,
Hey,
oh, sorry, Diana, go ahead. Hey, I just want to make sure I'm hearing you guys right. Go ahead, Diana.
I'm sorry. I was just gonna say I agree with you, Stefan. That's how we are viewed. That's how we are looked at these days. I just feel like it's time. We all need a change. I agree. I feel the cries. I cry with you. I'm mad. You know, it's hard being in the middle of two different worlds. And at the end of the day, I'm here to be a cop, to be a great cop. Don't look at me as a spoiled, rotten apple. I'm not that spoiled, rotten apple. I did not kill Ferguson. I did not kill Adam Toledo. He was 13 years old. I get angry of hearing that story. He's a child. It upsets me. I have kids. I have children. And to know that what happened had happened, that hurts me as a cop.
Let's get Danneile in and then back to the monologue. Go ahead, Danneile.
So just to make sure I'm hearing you two right, you want people to see your identities beyond just your job. You want to be known and recognized and appreciated for more than just what you do is one part of what you're saying. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And then another part of what you're saying is that you've never done any of these things that people are protesting. All you've ever tried to do is go out there to do the best you can to keep your community safe. Is that also right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
I just don't want to be judged because of somebody else's action, of another cop's action.
You know, before we go back, a lot of people tend to forget that policing at times is not always pretty. It really isn't. But we're here to, you know, we are here to do a job. But you know, sometimes it's just the way we get portrayed in the media, or like Latoya said from performing. I forgot who I said, but you know, with a few bad apples, you know, it you know, once they see them, they kind of vilify all of us, and that's what sucks.
So I'm going to turn this back over to Latoya in just a second, but I hear everything that you're saying, and the only thing I would add is that, you know, people in the community are also more than the things that they do, right?
Absolutely.
Even that person selling dope on the corner, like they have a mom and they have a partner and they are a human being. And I think a lot of the ways that those people are portrayed in the media is harmful and dehumanizing and unfair. And I think we all want to be treated and recognized for who we are more than just what we do. And then, in response to that second point, it's kind of like when, a lot of guys complain and say like, oh, well, it's not all men. When women talk about, harassment and assault and these things, it's like, we know that. Of course, statistically speaking, yes, we know it's not all men. And I would really hope it's not. That would be a terrifying world to live in. The problem is we don't know which ones are out there, right? So people have these narratives of harm and of fear based on what they've actually experienced, based on what they're afraid of experiencing, based on what people they know and love have experienced. And so that's what they take sometimes to y'all. And I've gotten to know you, and I know I could trust you, but I wouldn't necessarily have been able to say that 10 weeks ago before I knew you.
Let's
go back to Latoya.
Bad day for me. Someone gets killed. Recently, a young Jewish kid was ran over. And I'm like, my goodness, I'm a father now. At the time, I wasn't a father yet. And I'm thinking, wow, if that was my kid under that sheet, I'd be furious. I'd be mad. This is not entertainment. This isn't a good thing. This is not for you to come and watch. There was people standing there saying it was their right to look and record. Imagine the mother. I'm like, wow, there is nothing worse than this. But that was a bad day. That kid, I went home.
Back in 2011, I was working in Coney Island, and a young man was shot. He died. He was in a park, Pulaski Park, I think it's called. And we were there with a four-wheeler for the beach. And while this young, I almost want to say child, I think he might have just turned 18. He's on the back of our four-wheeler, and we're trying to give him chest compressions and trying to seal his chest wound the best that we could with whatever we had with us. And as we're doing that, people started throwing rock-filled glass bottles at us. So now we have to run from the park on a four-wheeler, giving a young kid chest compressions in the back of this four-wheeler. And we could hear the reason they were doing it is because we're not from that neighborhood.
Me, I'm a big component of once I take my uniform off and I put it in the locker and it stays in the locker. I go home as Mardochi, and that's who I am. I'm goofy, I'm fun, loving, I'm home, I annoy my fiance, I bother my friends. I don't even think about being a cop.
I said, hey, Steph, please don't make us all so sad. He said, once you see this, you will mostly be glad.
Then I get a group chat about another Black man killed by police and all that, and it all comes back. Or a cop shot on the other side, and a cop shot, like that. Man, imagine doing your job and randomly someone comes like with what happened a few years ago. 2 NYPD cops were sitting in the car, They kiss their families like I do. I kiss my fiance. I rub my dog's head. I go home expecting to come back to them, and I get killed because of the uniform I put on.
Hold, Tracy. 7 ways to talk to your kids about cops.
Honest.
1.
In the moment.
2.
Allow them to ask you questions.
3.
Find a good cop.
4.
Put all your differences aside.
Five.
Five.
5,
Be clear that all cops are not there to
Six.
help you.
6,
6,
All cops are not there to harm you.
7.
7, 7 things.
7,
I've never, those cops, they've probably thought I've never shot any unarmed. I've never shot anybody unarmed. I've never done anything racist. I've saved lives. And I get killed because of the uniform I wear, because of a cop who did something thousands of miles away from where I do my job, because they were killed because of the frustrations. And this man was frustrated. He shoots and kills both of them who had family members themselves, who probably, woke up that morning just wanting to do a job, who helped countless people.
I pulled into the precinct, was feeling about 10:30. I just need some place where I can lay my head. Hey, Sergeant, can you tell me where a cop might find a bed? He just grinned and shook his head. No, was all he said.
Never had anything, and they got killed for the uniform they got on. Now, years later, I'm a cop. I leave the uniform in the locker and I'm being me. I get a text message that rest in peace, end of watch. I think police reform, just saying it, we need to reform the police and make them better for the community. It sounds good, but it's smoke and mirrors compared to what is actually needed. You have the whole thing with bail reform, the no cash bail. So Khalif Browder was accused of stealing somebody's backpack. They arrest him. His bail was like, I don't know, that much, but because he's poor, his mother doesn't have the money. He's kept for 3 years over a backpack and a crime that he didn't even commit. He gets out, goes on Oprah, all this stuff, but because of what happened to him during that time, he ends up killing himself. Bail reform. I feel like someone shouldn't be in jail for 3 years over a backpack. But if somebody shoots a vehicle up or we find a gun on an individual, there is no way I should be seeing that guy the next time I come to work because there is no bail. And they wonder why the shooting has gone up in New York City. They blame the police, but why blame the police when we are doing the job? We are arresting these guys.
Oh, I hear you talk about bail reform, Officer Madushi, and I want you to know that reform in regards to holding people in prison for nonviolent crimes is just as hard for a family who has to choose between putting a roof over their head and food on the table and using that money to bail their loved one out. The prison system we know right now is definitely not a system that is there to do any form of reform or correction. But when you have a young person or you have a person who is there for a nonviolent offense, there's other ways that you could work with them to change their life, maybe help offer them a job or find something more meaningful to offer. But I think that using the opposition of no bail reform as a way of saying, well, if you use this system here, then you're going to let violent criminals out and then more crimes are going to happen and then we can't do our jobs. And guess what? This is what you asked for. So you deserve to have more criminals and more crime in your community. That's a bad way to look at it. So there's another side to this. Thank you.
Tracy. What I hear you saying is that there's a family on the other side that may or may not be financially able to deal with a bail set for something of a nonviolent nature, something simple, something that quite honestly, they probably shouldn't be in jail for to begin with. And that using that as an excuse for crime to happen doesn't sit well with you. Is that right?
That is correct.
So I agree with everything that you said. There is a significant problem in the bail system. But the evidence of cyclical criminals is evident. There's a guy in my very precinct that was arrested, I think, 6 times within 48 hours for committing burglaries. 6 families in 48 hours suffered the same crime from the same guy because we couldn't, not us, but the court system couldn't hold him. I think the problem, in my opinion, is that politicians, city leadership are using these trigger phrases as a way to boost their own careers, not understanding and not caring about the ramifications down on the street that you have to deal with and that I have to deal with. And I think all of us are being used as pawns.
What I hear you say, Brian, is that politicians are using these catchphrases as a way to get their platforms and their votes or their legislations or bills passed. And in the end, in some way, we're all the ones who are being punished for their choosing. Am I correct in what I'm saying so far?
Nailed it.
Okay. What I would say to you is that you're absolutely right when it comes down to politicians, union leaders, using whatever's going on currently in terms of the criminalizing of more policing. Let's have more policing in schools. Let's have more policing on the streets, using incidents of high volumes of crime as a way of saying, like, this is what we need to do. But there's a big hole in between the two ends. And I think that what happens is that there's a system, and I spoke about it earlier, about historically, that allows to use brown and Black bodies as commodity to keep those systems going.
Latoya.
The politicians are taking credit for the law. Oh, I did bail reform, but they won't take the credit for these individuals that they are letting out, shooting up neighborhoods. I don't get it. How is that benefiting the neighborhood? I'm all for second chances. And I know how it all comes back to economics because of poor people living in poor neighborhoods, usually high in violence and drugs. But at what point do we use common sense? And I feel like that's where reform has an issue. No cop that I know wakes up and says, I'm going to get this amount of collars today. I'm going to stop this amount of cars. No. At one point, there was a quota, but there was some officers who came forward to reveal it, and they were paid for being whistleblowers. I don't know if you're familiar with Lieutenant Raymond and about 12 or 15 other officers who came forward before I got on the job. There was a quota. Now, there is not a quota, but they disguise it as activity. It's not a quota, but you're still expected to show that you're working, you know?
Hold. See, this is the issue with it, right? If we're just doing the same thing, but calling it another name, then we're not really telling the truth about what happened. And we're not really telling the truth about why it's so important to change it. Still just goes back to Tracy, what we were talking about earlier. We can't have accountability. People are not telling the truth about what they're doing and about what they're failing to do. Because what I'm hearing is that we basically, in effect, still have quotas.
Putting your knee on someone's neck, I would never agree with that. Never agree with that. Never. Chokeholds, putting a knee on someone's neck should never be okay. But when you start going down to, when you are arresting someone, they can't be on your back. It makes it hard. If you tell police they still have to do their jobs, absolutely we do. And then you get into the details of how to do their jobs, and it negatively goes against what actually happens out in the streets. You don't want to hurt them, but you're trying to get them under control. It's really not that easy. What pisses me off, I say this. During COVID, when all that happened and nurses and doctors, they stepped up in a big way. Everyone was like, oh, the doctors, clap for the nurses, even us. We used to go to the front of the hospitals and clap for them. But, you know, especially in the beginning of COVID, they stepped up, but that's their job. They stepped up and they got credit, and the credit that they deserve. But when it comes to cops, and you know, it's a dangerous job where I could potentially lose my life. They bring up statistics like, oh, cops are not like the 9th most dangerous job, whatever. Not even the top 10 most dangerous job, blah, blah, blah.
Hold.
They bring
Diana. 7 ways to hold another officer accountable. Go.
Why did you do that? What?
one,
What were you thinking?
2,
Did I hear the media?
3,
The training we took, did you not learn?
4,
Hands down means hands down.
5,
Stay shut means to be quiet.
6,
6.
Enough is enough.
7.
7.
7 things.
7 things.
They bring that up to water down the job. They bring that up to water down the job, the dangers of the job. You tell them like, yo, we could potentially get hurt, get maimed, or like paralyzed doing this job. Cops have been killed in all sorts of various ways. And then they tell you, you chose that job.
A lot of cops are terrified of losing their life in the service of the city, but every cop will do it. It is part of the gig. But I think more cops are more afraid of the administrative troubles that come with this job. Everyone wants to talk about police reform, and maybe there's room for that. I mean, I'm not very smart. That's why I'm a cop. But what I do know is we have precinct level integrity control officers that make sure we are doing what we're supposed to be doing. We have internal affairs, making sure that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. We have borough-wide investigations units that make sure we're doing what we're doing. We have 2 federal monitors that watch every piece of paperwork that we do to make sure we know what we're doing. We have CCRB, which should exist. It's fine. I don't have a problem with CCRB, but it's another outlet, another watchdog organization to make sure that we are doing what we're supposed to be doing. We have the district attorneys in all 5 boroughs to make sure we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. We have a department advocate that makes sure that anytime a cop screws up, there's a punishment attached. We have all of these systems in place for just administrative problems on this job. And cops, far and away, are more afraid of those people than any perpetrator out on the street. Because at least a perpetrator on the street, it's going to be a fair fight. It's all the other organizations that follow us that cripple the police department. If you ever wonder why cops don't want to talk to you while you're walking around, is because the number one thing cops think is that if you're going to come up and talk to me, you work for some of these organizations that are trying to jam me up.
Mhm.
But didn't doctors and nurses choose that job? And weren't they expected to be the ones to take care of, to step up during this pandemic? So why is it that we clap for all of them? Good job, good job. And with cops, like, oh, you chose that job, so you should know the dangers. What do I fear?
Old, you can hate me now, but I won't stop now.
My biggest fear is that someone interprets me in a way that I'm not, that I'm really not, and me not really being able to defend myself. So that's where I am. That's my biggest fear, that someone interprets me as someone that I'm not. Thank you.
Oh, I have a 16-year-old son that I used to say to him that he could not walk the streets with a hood on, that he was not allowed to run with a backpack on, because I was afraid that someone would misinterpret him as being something that he was not. I know that this young man, that if he is approached by a police officer, his nervous grin will be viewed as him being disrespectful, not taking the authority that's standing in front of them as someone to be serious. So when you, Officer Maducci, says you're afraid of being misjudged or afraid of being looked at as someone you're not, that is the very fear that I have when my son is not in my presence. That is the very fear that I have when my son walks out of that door, because I know that 9 times out of 10, someone's going to see a young Black boy walking down the street with a hood on his head and a backpack, and automatically he fits some description that only the officer on the other end knows. Thank you.
I'm going to let that be the last thought on that. Thank you, Latoya. And thank you, Officer Mardoci. Everybody come back on gallery view. I want to try something with you all. Each of our civilian players, I would like you to pin one of the officers. Don't tell us who you're pinning. And the way you do that is you put your cursor in the box of the person you're pinning. You'll see 3 dots and you can pin that person. And you will only see that person. Have you all done that? Don't tell us who you've done it to. Don't tell us who you're pinning. And I'm just going to go around and I'm going to ask you, looking at that person, looking at that police officer, I want you just to give us adjectives that come to your mind about that person. And also, you've been playing with them for a few days now. You've been going through workshop activities with them. So just what you know about that person. Let's start with you, Latoya.
I see Stefan.
Don't tell us who it is. Now we know. Go ahead.
Quite jovial, but loves his job. Compassionate about the care of the people, not just in his job, but in the community. Someone who wants to see change, doesn't really like the systems of policing as far as what it means when it ball bust him in his experience, but definitely someone who over time will make connections with the community and hopefully look for change.
And try to describe what you're seeing.
I'm gonna finish describing. I see him as someone who, whether if it means his colleague or just a person, just a normal person, would definitely be willing to have a calmness, show calmness to them, support them. That's what I see when I see my person.
Okay. Danneile, tell us about the person you've pinned. Describe what you're seeing.
I'm seeing a person who is sweet, a person who loves to share stories about their life and their family. I see a person who is earnest, who really, really wants to do their job, who really, really wants to help. I see a person who defines themselves first and foremost as a person, and then later by what they do. I see a person I admire, a person I would be happy to go to with a question or for help. I see a person I can trust.
Thank you. And Tracy.
I see a person who is thorough. I see a person who is logical. I see a person who is knowledgeable. I see a person who is reasonable. I see a person who will look at both sides of the coins. And I see a person who will respond not so heavily on the emotions, but with what's before them.
Thank you. Now, I'd like each of the officers to just take your uniform cap and just put it on. Wear it regulation style. Tracy, describe your person now.
I see a person who is serious. I see a person who is proud. I see a person who is firm. I see authority. I see formality.
Okay, and I'm going to ask the people in the chat, in the Zoom land out there, put adjectives that they see now in their chat box. But let's continue with you, Danneile.
I see a person who is impassive. I see a person I can't read. I see a person who is in a position of authority. You know, I see a person who did actually a really nice job getting together today. They look good under that cap. I see a person who could be friends, somebody close to me I know, or maybe not. I see a person in uniform.
Latoya.
I see a person in authority. I see a person who is willing to be helpful. I see a person who shows leadership. I see a person who can be loyal. I see a person who has strength. I see a person who has dignity.
I'm going to read some of the comments.
Let me go back. I can't see the dignity, but I see a person who has strong character.
Okay. I'm going to read some of the chat comments. I see my fellow citizens. I see a role in society, not a person at all. I see people who are earnest, defensive, have their guard up. I see bravery and pride. I see people full of humanity, both the good and bad parts. Brave, intimidating, hopeful. Authoritative, support, belief, and respect. I see mostly uniforms and just a small window of a face. It's harder to see their eyes with the cap on. Our eyes the window to the soul. Human beings who happen to be police officers. I see a person who is required to do what they are told to do. I see a person. I see myself. Support, honesty, honestly. I see an individual who's just like us, but is standing behind a systematic wall. Okay, thank you all. Take your hats off. And I just want to know, from the officer's point of view, what that felt like. What changed for you? Did anything change for you when you put your hat on?
No,
No, okay.
it's my job. I do proudly put my hat on because it's a job that I'm proud of.
Mm-hmm.
Again, like I said earlier, I'm a person who became a cop to help and to make a difference. I've been in situations in my past before a cop that made my decision to become a cop to make a difference in life. I would like for people to see me more as a person who has a job as a cop, but is also willing to help someone. I'm part of society as a person and as a cop. And I am, yes, human being. And we feel and we hurt as well.
Brian.
You know, somebody in the chat said that they can't see the eyes. It's funny because I've been advocating to get rid of these hats for my entire career. Number one, now I instantly have a headache. But number two, this hat should be reserved for a dress uniform because this hat does nothing but scare people away.
Steph.
I agree with Brian said because back when I was a rookie, all the people we used to see in East New York was this. They didn't see anything else in there. They were afraid to approach us. But in all honesty, when I put it on, nothing changed. I'm still Steph 24/7. I'm here, either 8 hours and 35 minutes a day or however I might be at work. But at the end of the day, outside of work, I still have a life, and I still need to be myself. Like it's like, I feel like, we have to sometimes we have to separate. We can't be a cop 24/7. That's basically what I'm saying. You can't. It'll drive you insane. Like you have to learn how to, stop being. You're still a police officer, but when you're done at work, be done. Enjoy life. Relax a little bit. So that's pretty much how I am.
Thank
and
you.
the damn headache. Am I right? Look how big this head is. I got this.
Yo, look, hold on. I'm going more.
Thank you all. I'm going to turn this over to Michael David for our final song.
Hey, folks. We're going to take this whole project home. It's hard because, you want me to start my video? Fine, then I will start my video. I was going to be incognito, but I guess not. I don't have any words other than I'm very glad to be here. So, Maestro, if you will, let's do this song. And folks, cast members, if you want to join me on the ands, put the load as you are so moved. We're going to take this home. Maestro, please, whenever you're ready. Woke up this morning feeling just a little bit raw. Can't step away from my struggle with the law. Hey friend, can you help me? Tell me how to hold my grief. Can you please take my hand? Give me a little relief. Take a load off Fanny. Take a load for free. Take a load off Fanny. And you put the load right on me. Take care, folks. Thank you so much. That was wonderful.
So, let me just bring myself back in here. Just everybody stay on with me. Takes a lot of people to make this project happen. I want to give a special thanks to the people who allowed their stories to be told. Dustin Rodriguez and Officer St. Fard for sharing their stories and their views.
Justin, I know you're here, baby. I love you.
Justin, love you too.
I also want to thank the team that is Irondale, people who have been doing this work for a few years and people who've been doing it for 38 years. So thanks go to Renata, Max, Lucy, Barbara, Ronnie, Tim, everybody behind the scenes who put in hours of creativity, sweat, and passion. Thanks to the 100 TPSU alumni. Thanks to our funding partners, God bless them, who support this work. I hope you can see that even when the theater goes dark, the work has to go on. Tonight, we've tried to give you a taste of how TPSU works. In times that divide and isolate us, we're trying to continue the conversation started here in our theater. But wait, there's more. Our first radio play, our radio Mother Courage and Her Children by Bertolt Brecht, is now available and will be until May 1st. It's a terrific play, definitely one for our times, and our inability to get into the theater has led us into a whole new art form. Please hear it for yourself. Go to our website and you can find out how to do that. Between now and May 13th, we'll be having several Zoomcasts, including a deep dive into this program, which will lead up to our first virtual gala, which we hope you'll participate in. It's not going to be boring. This is going to be a way where you can interact with your friends, with us online. You can have a glass of wine with us. And I think it's going to be great. And we would love you to attend. Please visit our website, www.irondale.org, for all the details. We promise you, I promise you, this work will continue. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Absolutely.
I hope you'll come back with a friend to hear more stories and continue the conversation. Good night, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Good
Bye-bye.
night.
Night.
Thank you
Chance,
all.
stay on
Be
for a
well, be
second.
safe.